doctors gave up, but the Black Maid did the impossible for the billionaire's son. Alexander Cole stood frozen at the entrance of his son's bedroom, unable to blink, unable to believe what his eyes were showing him. His fingers dug into the wooden doorframe as if he needed something solid to hold on to. His throat tightened, his vision blurred. He wasn't dreaming. He wasn't hallucinating. It was real. 6-year-old Ethan, his little boy who hadn't taken an unassisted step in 3 long years, was standing upright, balanced on his own 2 legs. No braces, no crutches, no therapist holding him in place. Just Ethan, smiling, glowing, alive in a way Alexander hadn't seen since before the accident, and beside him, steadying the boy's hands with gentle precision, was the last person on earth he would have expected, Amara, the housemaid he had hired barely 3 months ago. "Daddy, look," Ethan beamed, wobbling but standing. "Look what Miss Amara taught me. I can do it all by myself." Alexander's heart split open. For 3 years, he had burned through fortune after fortune, flying specialists from Zurich, Boston, Tokyo, 17 neurologists, experimental treatments, private rehab centers, customized technologies. All of them had told him the same soul-crushing verdict: your son will never walk again. Yet here Ethan was, defying them all. Alexander tried to speak, but air refused to leave his lungs. This was the miracle he had begged for, the moment he had prayed for, and it wasn't delivered by a doctor in a white coat, but by a quiet woman with no medical background on her resume, a woman he hired to dust shelves and mop floors. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced down. 1 new email, anonymous sender, no subject line, just a single sentence. "Do you know who is really taking care of your son?" Attached was a link to an old newspaper article. Alexander opened it, and his blood iced over. Former neurologist Dr. Amara Blake loses license after fatal experimental procedure. His world tilted. A miracle in front of him, combined with a threat staring back from his phone. Who was this woman? A savior or a danger? To understand how Alexander reached this moment, we must return to the beginning. 3 months earlier, Alexander Cole sat in yet another sterile office, breathing recycled hospital air, listening to the 17th specialist deliver the exact same polished hopelessness. "I'm sorry." "Mr. Cole," said Dr. Helena Strauss, sliding Ethan's file shut, "the neurological trauma from the accident is irreversible. His motor pathways are severely compromised. Cases like this rarely, if ever, improve." Her voice was calm, clinical, final. Alexander didn't shout, didn't cry. He simply nodded, though something inside him tore wider. 3 years ago, the crash took his wife Grace and stole Ethan's body from him. Alexander had sworn he would save what little of his family remained. 17 doctors, 17 failures, and a little boy still trapped inside a body that no longer obeyed him. Ethan's world had shrunk to a chair by the window. His legs no longer obeyed him. His fingers trembled so violently he could barely hold a spoon, and every word came out fractured, soaked in effort. Alexander had spent $3 million chasing miracles, rehab centers, brain stimulation trials, imported specialists. None of it changed anything. Each new hope collapsed into another polite apology. Every afternoon, Ethan sat watching the neighborhood children sprint through the gardens below. Their laughter reached him through the glass, sharp, distant, unbearable. His forehead pressed against the cold window pane while Alexander stood behind him, powerless to move or to look away. You must understand something about Alexander Cole. He wasn't simply wealthy. He was a builder of empires, a man who had forced success out of nothing but intellect and defiance. Impossible had never applied to him, until medicine used it against his son. For the first time in his life, the man who conquered markets couldn't conquer fate. 48 hours before everything would change, Alexander reached the lowest point he had ever known. Ethan's 6th birthday. He had spared no expense. Balloons shaped like planets, performers, lavish gifts. The backyard looked like a festival, but as the games began, Ethan's reality separated him from the noise. The other children ran, climbed, shouted. He tried to join, dragging his crutches through the grass until exhaustion swallowed him. Within minutes, he sat alone on a bench while the laughter drifted away from him. Tears rolled down his cheeks. He wasn't angry at them. He was angry at his own body. That night, Alexander found him weeping into his pillow. "Daddy, why can't I run?" The words slurred, heavy as lead. Alexander had no reply, just his arms around the boy. Silent tears on the child's hair. Mrs. Harlow's departure. The next morning, Mrs. Harlow, faithful housekeeper of 20 years, stood in the kitchen clutching her aching wrists. "I'm sorry, Mr. Cole, the pain's too much now. I have to stop working. But I'll find someone dependable to take my place." He nodded absently. He didn't yet know that her replacement would alter everything. His grief, his son's fate, and his understanding of miracles. The arrival of Amara Blake Rain blurred the mansion's windows when Amara Blake arrived for her interview. Late 30s, calm voice, posture straight despite the weather. Something about her presence warmed the empty rooms. "Mrs. Harlow speaks highly of you," Alexander said, scanning the modest resume. "Experience with children who have special needs?" "Yes, sir," she answered softly. "Several families. I focus on creating steady routines. Structure helps them feel safe." What the paper didn't reveal was the truth. Amara Blake had once been Dr. Amara Blake, a rising neurologist who'd revolutionized pediatric motor therapy before a tragedy stripped her of license and reputation. Alexander hired her the same hour. Desperation overrode logic. Her steadiness felt like oxygen in a house that had forgotten how to breathe. "I should warn you," he said. "My son needs patience. Many people can't handle watching him struggle." Amara's expression softened. "Patience won't be a problem, Mr. Cole. If you'll allow me, I can help with some of his routines. I'm good with children who need extra support. Would you have trusted her? Would you have seen kindness? Or questioned the precision in her words?" First meeting that afternoon, she found Ethan in his room, trying to fit puzzle pieces with trembling hands. His frustration boiled into tears. "Hi, Ethan," she said, kneeling to his level. "I'm Miss Amara. I'll be helping your dad around the house. May I sit here?" He eyed her warily. Most adults gave him pity. She didn't. Her eyes held respect, not sorrow. "My hands don't work," he muttered. "That must be hard," she said simply. No false cheer, no hollow praise. "Then, want me to show you another way?" She guided his hands, showing him how to brace one wrist with the other to steady the shake. Slowly, patiently, without taking over. After 20 minutes, he fitted 3 pieces together. "You did it," she whispered, genuine pride in her tone. Ethan smiled for the first time in days. "Feels good." From the doorway, Alexander watched something flicker to life inside him. Hope, a feeling he'd buried long ago. Weeks of change Amara revealed nothing of her background. She simply organized the household around Ethan's healing disguised as play. Special utensils made mealtimes possible again. Gentle breathing rituals eased his nights. Games replaced therapy drills. Laughter replaced frustration. One afternoon, Ethan asked, "Miss Amara, can we practice standing today?" Her pulse quickened. "Standing? Sure. Want to try something new?" What looked like play to others was deliberate rehabilitation. She turned chores into strength training, playtime into balance work. The boy who once cried through every exercise now begged to continue. Mrs. Harlow, before leaving, whispered to Alexander, "She's special, sir." "I told you she had a gift." "What gift?" he asked. Mrs. Harlow hesitated. "Some people are simply meant to heal, even when the world forbids them to." The breakthrough 8 weeks after Amara's arrival. The living room became the stage of the impossible. "All right, Ethan," she said gently. "Let's try something brave. Stand up, no crutches, just for 5 seconds. I'll be right here." He shook his head. "I can't." "Not yet," she corrected. "But maybe today's the day." He took her hands, trembling. Muscles quivered, legs uncertain. Then he rose. 5 seconds, 10, 15. "I'm standing." Ethan gasped. "You're standing," Amara whispered, tears tracing her cheeks. "You did it." Alexander heard the commotion and rushed in. What he saw stopped his breath. His son upright, unaided, smiling. The impossible had begun. Alexander Cole had replayed the moment in his mind 100 times. Ethan standing on his own tiny feet, smiling with the pure pride only a child can hold. That image should have brought peace. Instead, it was tearing him apart. 17 neurologists. 3 years of grim prognoses. Every expert repeated the same conclusion: irreversible damage. No motor recovery. Prepare for lifelong disability. Yet Ethan had stood. Not for seconds, for minutes. Steady, balanced, hopeful. It should have been the greatest day of Alexander's life. But the email, the cursed email, had poisoned it. That night, long after Ethan fell asleep clutching the stuffed bear his mother once gave him, Alexander sat alone in his dim office. The glow of his laptop reflected in his sleepless eyes. He wanted to research physical therapy programs to support whatever Amara Blake had started. Instead, his screen showed the headline that now gnawed at his mind: Promising pediatric neurologist loses license after child's death. And the photo, Amara in a white coat. Dr. Amara Blake, not a maid. Not an ordinary woman, a fallen neurologist with a ruined legacy. His jaw tightened. His fist trembled on the desk. Had he welcomed danger into his home, into his son's room? By morning, the torment hardened into fury. When Dr. Amara Blake entered the foyer for work, she froze. Alexander was waiting. His eyes were cold, his posture rigid, his voice stripped of warmth. "Is Ethan all right?" she asked, instantly sensing the shift. "Don't pretend you care," Alexander snapped. "Not after what I know," her breath caught. What did you learn?" "That you are not a maid. You are Dr. Amara Blake, the woman who killed an 8-year-old child during an experimental treatment. And you've been secretly performing medical procedures on my son." His voice cracked with rage. "Were you using Ethan as your next experiment?" Amara's face crumpled in pain. "Alexander, please. I never harmed a child. I never harmed Ethan. What you read isn't the whole story." "Stop," he barked. "Pack your things and get out. If you step near my son again, I will have you arrested." Tears welled, but she didn't argue. Ethan is improving because of his own potential. Potential every doctor refused to see. Please don't take that from him. Get out. Her final glance was toward the staircase, the direction of Ethan's room. She wanted to say goodbye. She wanted to remind him to practice. She wanted him to know she didn't abandon him. But Alexander's glare erased any chance. Amara left the mansion silently, clutching the secret of her innocence and the unbearable truth that Ethan would now regress without continuation. The collapse began immediately. Ethan refused to eat, refused to smile, refused to try. He asked for her every morning and cried himself to sleep every night. 3 days. That's all it took to erase weeks of progress. Alexander watched helplessly as tiny tremors returned to his son's hands, as Ethan's voice grew flat and hopeless. The therapist he hired couldn't coax even a single exercise from him. "Where's Miss Amara?" Ethan whispered one night, eyes swollen. "Did I do something wrong?" Alexander couldn't answer, and that silence destroyed him more than any headline ever could. On the 4th sleepless night, Alexander sat in his office again, staring at the article. Something about it wouldn't let him rest. Something felt off, too neat, too convenient, too absolute. Alexander Cole hadn't built a billion-dollar empire by accepting the surface version of anything. His instincts, finally cutting through the emotion, began to whisper. You only heard one side. He picked up his phone and called the one man he trusted to uncover truth, his head of security. "Marcus, I need a full investigation," Alexander said. "Not the public story. The real story? Dig into Dr. Amara Blake. Find everything." Within 72 hours, Marcus Chen returned with a thick confidential file. He placed it on Alexander's desk and said only one sentence. "You were deceived. The official story is a lie." Marcus opened the file. The child who died, Timothy Chen, was not Amara's patient originally. He was under Dr. Robert Westfield, head of her department. The boy was deteriorating under Westfield's standard treatment. The parents begged for Amara's help. She presented a new rehabilitation protocol, unconventional but approved by the hospital board. The parents signed full consent. Alexander leaned in, pulse rising. Marcus continued. For 3 weeks, Timothy showed rapid improvement. Then the day before his fatal seizure, someone altered his medication records. The dosage was tripled. The signature authorizing that change was forged. Alexander's heart stopped. Meaning someone killed that child, Marcus finished, and framed Amara to destroy her. The room fell into a cold, heavy silence. Alexander finally understood. He hadn't just expelled the only person who helped his son. He had thrown out the one person still running from a crime she never committed. And the person who framed her was still out there, still watching, still dangerous. Samuel Ortiz spread a stack of documents across Alexander Cole's desk. Medical records, financial trails, sealed testimonies, and a timeline that tied everything together in a clean, devastating line, Alexander, Samuel said, voice low. Dr. Amara Blake didn't lose her license because she failed a patient. She lost it because she threatened someone's empire. Alexander stared at the headline on the old newspaper clipping. Doctor stripped of license after child dies in experimental treatment. For years, he believed that story. Now he knew the truth. Samuel continued. Amara developed a breakthrough rehabilitation method. Simple routines, neuromuscular repatterning, sensory retraining. No expensive machines, no drugs. No lifetime hospital dependency. He slid another file forward. She was about to publish her findings. Then Dr. Lionel Hargrove stepped in. Alexander's jaw clenched. Hargrove, America's golden neurologist, the man whose research dominated pediatric care. The man Alexander once trusted. Samuel pointed to the timeline. Hargrove spent 15 years designing treatment systems that require his proprietary equipment. He owns shares in the company that manufactures them. If Amara's research proved a cheaper, more effective method, his empire collapses. Reputation gone, revenue gone, career over. Alexander exhaled, disgust twisting in his gut. After Amara was destroyed, Samuel continued. Hargrove was promoted. He secured multi-million-dollar grants. His equipment stocks exploded, and every doctor who supported Amara's research either resigned, disappeared from academia, or suddenly changed specialization. Alexander's voice was a whisper of rage. You're telling me he sacrificed a child's life for profit? I'm telling you, Samuel said. Noah Rivera didn't die by accident. Hargrove orchestrated it. He forged Amara's authorization, overdosed Noah, and made her the scapegoat. Then, Samuel held up a series of surveillance photos. He hired a private investigator. He's been tracking Amara for 5 years. Her jobs, her addresses, her movements. And 3 days ago, that same investigator sent an anonymous email to you. Everything inside Alexander went cold. He wanted you to throw her out, Samuel finished. Because if she succeeded with Ethan, the truth about Noah Rivera would surface. And Hargrove can't survive the truth. Alexander's hands curled into fists. He had taken Ethan's only hope and thrown her away because a murderer whispered in his ear, not again, never again. 6 hours later, Alexander sat in Samuel's SUV as they pulled up to a crumbling apartment building 30 miles from the Cole estate. The investigator, now paid and sworn to their doing, had delivered Amara's exacting address. Alexander climbed the stairs to Unit 3C with something heavy in his chest. Regret, shame, hope, all tangled so tightly he could barely breathe. The door opened only an inch. Dr. Amara Blake stood behind it, eyes tired, wary, and wounded. Mr. Cole, she whispered, voice guarded. If you're here to threaten me with legal action, You were framed. Alexander cut in, voice cracking. Noah Rivera was murdered. Hargrove forged your signature. I believed him. I threw you out. And I was wrong, her breath hitched. Her composure shattered. Tears filled her eyes. You believe me now? I do, and I need you. Ethan needs you. He isn't eating. He barely speaks. He asks for you every morning. Alexander swallowed hard. Please come back. I'm begging you. Amara looked away, trembling. If I return, Hargrove will retaliate. He'll come after you. After Ethan. After your reputation. He destroys people. Alexander's answer was immediate. Then let him try. I've watched my son suffer for 3 years. You gave him hope. I will burn Hargrove's empire to the ground before I let him take that away. Amara wiped her face, gathering herself. Then she nodded. I'll come back. But not as a maid. If I help Ethan again, I help him as a doctor, fully, openly. Done, Alexander said. And I'll restore your license. Whatever it takes. That evening, Amara stepped into Ethan's room. Ethan, her voice barely a whisper. I'm back, the boy turned. For a split second he froze, disbelieving, then burst into tears, throwing himself into her arms. I thought, "You left because I wasn't getting better." Amara held him, voice steady and warm. "No, never. I left because someone lied. But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. You are strong. You are capable. And we will keep going, together. Promise?" He sobbed. "I promise," she whispered. Sealing it, Alexander stood in the doorway, silent tears on his face, watching the only moment of peace his son had known in weeks. Over the next 2 weeks, Ethan transformed again. He laughed. He trained. He progressed. And most importantly, Amara documented everything. They were building evidence, brick by brick, step by step. Then came the war. Alexander hired the country's most feared malpractice attorneys. They filed a motion to reopen Dr. Amara Blake's case with new forensic proof, the investigators' sworn testimony, and financial evidence linking Hargrove to the forged orders in Noah Rivera's death. A hearing was scheduled. The night before it, Alexander received a call. "Mr. Cole," Hargrove's voice oozed through the speaker. "Drop this. I'll oversee Ethan's treatment personally, free of charge. Or continue, and I will ruin you. I'll make the world believe you let an unlicensed criminal experiment on your disabled son. CPS will be very interested." Alexander hung up without a word. The next morning, the medical board hearing began. Amara sat with Alexander's legal team, hands trembling. Across the room sat Dr. Lionel Hargrove, polished, confident. Surrounded by lawyers and power, the board chair spoke. "This hearing will determine whether Dr. Amara Blake's medical license shall be reinstated in light of new evidence." Alexander's attorney stood first. Present forensic proof the overdose order was forged. Testimony from the PI paid to destroy Dr. Blake's career. Financial records showing Dr. Hargrove's motive. And medical evidence proving Dr. Blake's treatment protocol is not only safe, but groundbreaking. They displayed Ethan's before and after progress on screen. Gasps filled the room. Hargrove's lawyer rose smoothly. "Objection. These records only prove an unlicensed woman continued treating a minor. This is malpractice in its purest form." The board leaned forward, divided, unsure. The battle for truth had begun, and before it ended, someone in that room would fall. "Research that led to a child's death," Westfield declared, turning to the board. "Are we really prepared to let Dr. Johnson endanger more children? Her negligence killed one boy. That is her legacy." Before the chairman could respond, the conference room doors opened. A woman in her 50s stepped inside, face pale but resolute. "My name is Linda Chen," she said. "I am Timothy Chen's mother." Silence hit the room like a shockwave. "Mrs. Chen," the chairman began cautiously. "This is a closed—" "I have evidence," she cut in, voice trembling but unwavering. "Evidence that proves Dr. Johnson did not kill my son, and I will not stay silent another day." She removed a small recorder from her purse and pressed play. A man's voice. Cold. Familiar. "Westfield, is the boy asleep?" Nervous woman answered. "Yes, doctor." "Good. Increase his dosage to 3 times the prescription. Make it look like Dr. Johnson ordered it. By morning, the problem will solve itself." "Doctor—" "That could kill him. That is the point. If the boy recovers, her research succeeds, and I lose everything. Do it tonight." The audio ended. The room erupted, shouting, chairs scraping, papers flying. Westfield went ashen, then bolted for the exit. Security intercepted before he reached the door. Linda Chen wiped her face, shaking. "He threatened me. Told me he would destroy my family if I spoke. I have lived with that fear for 5 years. But when I learned he was sabotaging another child's chance to live, I couldn't let him do it again." Justice finally moved. Westfield was arrested on the spot, charged with murder, conspiracy, evidence tampering, and medical fraud. Investigators uncovered 6 more victims whose recoveries he had sabotaged to protect his profits. The board voted unanimously to restore Dr. Mariam Johnson's license. They issued a formal apology and offered her a prestigious hospital post. She refused. "I'm opening a clinic," she told Richard that evening. "A place for the children everyone else has given up on. Healing over profit, hope over politics." Richard didn't hesitate. "Then I'll fund it. The Richard and Emily Williams Foundation for Pediatric Rehabilitation. and you will lead it. 6 months later, the clinic opened. 37 children, once dismissed as hopeless, were improving for the first time in their lives. Miriam's research was validated worldwide. Timothy Chen's name was cleared, and Jason, once trapped in a failing body, was running. On his 7th birthday, he raced through the garden with his friends, laughing, steady, free. Miriam stood watching from the terrace, not a housekeeper, not an accused doctor, but the architect of a miracle. Richard joined her, lacing his fingers through hers. "He's running," he whispered. "Because of you." "He did the work," she replied. "You gave him the chance." Over the next year, the bond between Richard and Miriam deepened into something neither tried to name, until the day Richard asked Jason a single question. "How would you feel if Miriam became part of our family?" "Not as our helper, but as your mom?" Jason didn't hesitate. His face lit up. His voice shook with joy. "I've wanted that forever." 6 months later, in a quiet garden ceremony, Richard and Miriam married, Jason standing proudly between them as best man. 37 children from the clinic sat in the front rows, the living proof of her redemption. Jason read his speech with a steady voice. "Everyone said I'd never get better, but she believed in me. She saved me, and she saved my dad too. Now we're a real family." As the sun dipped and music rose, Jason ran across the grass, calling to them. "Mom, Dad, come dance with me." They joined him beneath the lights, father, mother, and the boy who was never supposed to walk, dancing under an open sky, living a future that once seemed impossible. Miracles are not lightning strikes. They are people, brave enough to fight for them,